Hello my friends, today we're going to speak about the future major Ukrainian counterattack that I believe will happen on the south part of Ukraine. But before, we're going to speak about the situation in Bakhmut and the latest news. And this is the tactical map of the Bakhmut city that gives us more details of what is happening out there. As you see, day by day, with the new reinforcements from the Russian regular army airborne divisions, Wagner army moves forward. Ukrainian forces left the city center and concentrated mostly on the western side of it. The Bakhmut city is divided into two parts by the railroad that goes all through the city, and now it's the main defense line for Ukrainian army. And this railroad was built on the artificial made hill that goes also across the city, and that creates extra obstacle for the Russian forces to cross the city into the western side. Before, Russia stuck near to the Bakhmut river, unable to cross it, but finally managed to do so from the south part and also from the north. Even though Russian forces successfully captured the central part of the city, Ukraine launched the artillery constantly on Russian positions with the help of the drones. And the Ukrainian side started to use the FPV drones massively. Those are more robust against the Russian interference. The normal drones could be destroyed by the Russian raiders, and that is why our soldiers use them with cautions. The modern-day software and hardware are sensitive and vulnerable, but nevertheless you can use those drones on the front lines. And speaking about software and vulnerability, I think it's time to call the sponsor and the partner of my channel, the Atlas VPN. They came out with a big deal for my subscribers and viewers, so you may get the Atlas VPN Premium with a huge discount for just $183 per month. The deal is time limited, so hurry up to join the club. And now my friends are going to tell you why the Atlas VPN is the best VPN out there. Personally, I tried free VPNs, but they are very slow and they cannot provide proper security for your accounts. Atlas VPN got the military standard data encryption. What it does, it basically hides my data for everyone who wants to reach it. Here we speak about the government structures, possible hackers or unwanted advertisements. Also use the Atlas VPN to get the access for the restricted websites in my country. Atlas VPN helped me to get access to Downfall movie available on Netflix. It is about the Boeing 737 MAX crashes. Because the air crash investigation is the sensitive topic, it was restricted in some countries. But with Atlas VPN, I can virtually change my location to any kind of country. So basically you have unlimited access to streaming services as Netflix, plus it might help you to avoid the price discrimination on internet if you want to buy something like airline ticket or you want to book apartments on Booking. My friends, if you want to get secured, reliable and fast VPN, please visit the link below under this video, where you can have it just for $183 per month if you sign up for the 3 years deal, and you'll have 3 months for free. Together it is 83% of discount. Awesome. We're gonna speak about the FPV drones also a little bit later. Now let's discuss the other issue that Ukrainian army might have. You see, Russia moved more artillery systems and they aimed them to Romova. It's a very vulnerable place for Ukrainian supply lines. It's a very important crossroad, but it's under the constant fire nowadays, and our forces now have to go across the fields to get supplies to the Bakhmut city, unfortunately. Right guys, first of all, sorry for this sad video I'm gonna show to you. This is the ambushed Ukrainian convoy on the way to supply the Bakhmut city. I've took it from the Russian resource, but definitely it is the Ukrainian column, so I'll show to you the price actually that we have to pay by holding in the Bakhmut city. And I counted like 6 armored vehicles out there that were completely demolished, plus there were some vans with supplies, the trucks and usual cars, and one T-64 tank that is over there. So this was filmed by the Russian drone, and definitely you can see this is the Western made armor vehicle. Hard to say what really that was. And this is the Humvee. For sure you can see that vehicle, and it has the module on the top. Wonder what the armor was there, but you can see the other one just near and one more on the bottom, and T-64 Ukrainian tank, lots of the usual cars, and one more Humvee. You probably will not see it just under my picture, my face face. You can see that there is no any road, nothing, so just across the fields, and according to those traces or trails, the column was not the first to go on the same way, so Russians spotted our column with the help of the drones and put their artillery, aimed them to this particular point and fired, destroying it. On my, let's say, not competent opinion, we should have withdrawn from the Bakhmut city a long time ago, but our military command, that knows better than me, obviously, they decide to continue resisting Bakhmut, but by doing so, we increase our casualties. Yes, we also caused the significant losses for the Russian army and Wagners, but in the urban environment, the losses from the both sides are mostly the same. And this is the Ukrainian trench near to the Bakhmut. As you can see, the weather is very wet, so we're not talking about the future offensive in nearby weeks. So the attack on our convoy might happen somewhere over here. As it was reported, it happened near to Hromovo. As for the Russian attack vectors, they have 5 of them. Obviously, the railroad will slow down them in this area. As you can see, they're unable to go across it, but there is the little place, the small place, where they were able to cross the railroad and enter to this residential area. But I don't see the attack vector on the north, so maybe the front line there is more stable. They tried to enter this side, but were pushed away by the Ukrainian forces. So is it real for Ukraine to continue to resist in the city? I would say yes, but not for a long time, unfortunately. The difference now between the Ukrainian army and the Russian one that Ukraine is using the limited resources to secure the Bakhmut city, at least a part of it, and Russia uses all of the resources trying to attack the Bakhmut city. The Ukrainian army mostly prepares the forces for the future counterattack, and now let's speak about it. And yes, I believe that it will happen over here. At least it's the most logical version. We still do not know the exact date and the forces that the Ukrainian army uses for that counterattack, but we know for sure that it will happen late April or May, but we're gonna witness the decisive action performed by Ukrainian army that will change not just the front lines but the outcome of this war. And the Russian side is waiting for that counterattack with fear, because with the resources they currently have, they are unable to withstand it. The Russian military bloggers who are on the front lines, who may communicate with the soldiers directly, they see the disaster within the Russian army military command, the chaos with supplies, communication, training and ammunition. They say that the Ukrainian counterattack will devastate the Russian army. And the Russian military bloggers want to raise the alarm and get in touch with the Russian army command, but they don't care. The Russian army created the defense lines, but as I said before in many of my videos, those defense lines are useless. They were not made according to the military standards, so the effectiveness of those trenches, I would say it's questionable. And with the weaponry that the Ukrainian army already has, we're gonna devastate everything. We obtained the long-range ammunition for HIMARS, it's 150 kilometers and enough to disturb the Russian supply lines. We got the Challenger 2 and Leopard 2 tanks that will help Ukrainian army to break through the Russian defense at the first point. And we got lots of the armored vehicles. For example, today President Zelensky said that we signed the order for 200 of Polish Rosemacha vehicles for Ukrainian army. And we're gonna obtain 100 of those just right now and 100 later. And totally we have around 1,000 of the armored vehicles that were not in use during this war. Bradleys, mortars and lots of the other stuff that was provided by our allies. And also we have the Soviet armored vehicles, which also may fight but less effective. So I think the main idea will go to Mariupol and to Melitopol with 2 vectors, cutting Russian army into 2 parts. Yes, it will create extra front lines over here, but also it will cut the Russian connections and will give us the way out to Berdansk port. So I do expect that we're gonna have this part at least under Ukrainian control with the bordering of Melitopol and Mariupol. and we'll have all of the sea coast under Ukrainian control, and from Berdansk we may launch the submarines to target this object near to Kerch, cutting the supplies for the Russian army into Crimea and from Crimea. And Russia will continue their attempts and struggle taking Donbass under their control, but the main thing that we're gonna cut supplies from Crimea to their group over here, and that will return their capabilities back as they were 2 years ago. Plus, we'll have the opportunity to start the counterattack from Kherson direction and little by little move to the border with Crimea, cutting the peninsula from Russia completely. And the Kerch Bridge is not just a road or railroad, there are also power cables from Russian mainland to Crimea. And cutting the supply lines and communication will disturb the operation of the Russian main base, the Navy in Sevastopol, and other military bases and airfields in Crimea. I think that's the main task of the future counteroffensive, and I think that it will happen like that. And you may say that it's quite a positive scenario, but I may say that it's very realistic. Remember the operation, the successful counterattack of Ukrainian forces in the Kharkiv region. Just look at the area that was liberated from the Russian forces in just a couple of weeks. And we haven't got any kind of the modern armor vehicles, any modern tanks or the equipment that we currently have from our allies. And yes, Russia still has superiority in their aviation, but with the air defense systems provided by our allies, we're gonna eliminate that advantage. For example, as we eliminated the Sukhoi Su-25 attack Russian airplane, and this was filmed from the Russian side, the other camera. You may find the full video on my Telegram channel. So the Russian aviation is unable to fly in Ukrainian-controlled airspace. They are flying near to the front lines and still got the losses. And with the future counterattack, we're gonna put the Patriot systems closer to the front lines that will give us 150 kilometers of the range to eliminate the Russian aviation. But Russia also has many more tanks, like 3 times more compared to Ukraine. But those tanks are usually old Soviet garbage compared to the tanks we got from our allies. Yes, still Ukrainian army is in lack of the modern day tanks, but what we have would be enough to penetrate the Russian defense lines. And about armor vehicles as Bradleys, Russia simply has no competitors in their army. But what about artillery? We have the article from the Washington Post saying that Ukraine uses around 7,700 rounds per day, but still it's 3 times less compared to the Russian army. Well, actually, the Russian artillery is also in lack of precision. Plus, it's less maneuverable and needs more time for reloading. So Ukraine may have less of everything, but we use it more smart. And the weaponry that we have is more smart compared to the Russian weaponry. So I wouldn't say that Russia has the huge advantage using 3 times more shells compared to Ukrainian army. But what Ukraine has that Russia doesn't are the modern day drones. Please understand me correctly, Russia also uses the drones, but not as massively as Ukraine. Our volunteers were able to build around 50,000 FPV drones for the future counterattack. Then you fly the FPV drone, you feel as you are inside that vehicle, and the precision with what you can deliver everything is very high. Plus, as I said to you before, the signal for the FPV drone is much stronger compared to the DJI, and it's hard to be disturbed by the Russian anti-radar systems. And the speed of some of the FPV drones exceeds 200 kilometers an hour. It's like the airplane. There is almost no any way how you may intercept those drones. For DJI, it's more simple. For FPV, almost no chances. And right from the beginning of this war, Russian army is very hard to introduce something new into their army. Because Russia is like an old Soviet Union. For them, the drones are something really strange, and it's better not to introduce them. But Ukraine is more flexible, and we even have the ranks for our soldiers: the drone operator, the drone pilot, or FPV drone operator. You'll not find that stuff in the Russian army, and then the war had just started, some of the soldiers started to bring their drones into the army, and they were even accused by wrongdoing, and some of them got jailed. Because everything in the Russian army should be according to the book, no left, no right deviation. But now with the help of their volunteers, they managed to bring some drones to their army, and they got this idea from the Ukrainian side. And this is the Bakhmut military map that I found on the Russian resource. As you can see, they claim that they've took this part under their control. Yes, they took more ground here on their map compared to military map that I used to show you before, but still it's not far from reality. And basically there is no any way how they might encircle Ukrainian army. For that they need to jump here and here, but still they will be under Ukrainian counterattack from this side, so they need to go forward, like I said to you before, around 15 kilometers ahead to try to encircle the Ukrainian army. So what they will do, they're gonna push us away from the city little by little, because Ukraine doesn't want to use all of the resources for Bakhmut and preparing for the future counterattack. And the main idea for Wagner and also the regular Russian army is to make Ukraine to send more and more forces to the Bakhmut area, and Wagner will sacrifice their prisoners or soldiers to fight against the Ukrainians. So Ukraine will not be able to perform the next step, the counterattack on the south part of Ukraine. But it doesn't work for Wagner soldiers as they thought. Ukraine still trades the ground for the Russian losses. And little by little we are moving out from the city to avoid the catastrophic losses. Today the Times published the article about the failed attempt of Ukrainian forces to get the control over Energodar nuclear power plant. They say that the Ukrainian side used around 600 elite troops for that attack and also 30 boats. Unfortunately, our forces were met with significant resistance from Russia. Not everyone made it to the Energodar power plant territory, and the forces that were fighting there got casualties and were forced to retreat back to Ukrainian controlled territory. It happened last year on 19th of October. I believe that this information might be correct, and Russia put more reinforcements to Energodar power plant. That is why it's very hard to get it back under control, and also we cannot use the artillery systems or gliding bombs or even mortars to get rid of the Russian soldiers. So I don't see in a nearby perspective the way how we can liberate the Energodar nuclear power plant. Maybe we may do it with the help of Ukrainian counterattack that will happen not far away from the place. So in the article they say that most of the boats turned back to the friendly territory, but some boats made it to the nuclear power plant and were fighting with Russians for around 4 hours, and then again retreated back to Ukrainian controlled territory. And I'm very surprised about the case, but it's been confirmed by the United States officials that some of the documents about the military help to Ukraine and the future counteroffensive were leaked into the Russian intelligence. Well, the Ukrainian side says that it's fake and made by the Russian propaganda, but officially the United States started the investigation, and investigations are started not because of the fakes. So there is something that really concerns the United States of America. In its attempt to defend the occupied territories, Russia built the record-long trench. It's around 70 kilometers long and goes from Melitopol to the Berdyansk area. It was found on the satellite images, and mainly it's the straight line. Yes, it's a little bit curved, but the curve angle is not that large and mainly goes straight all the way. So I believe that it's not the infantry trench, it was made against the tanks. But in any case, we got the engineering equipment that will help us to build the bridges very fast. So Russia is definitely preparing for the Ukrainian counterattack in a very strange manner. And today there were some booms with the smoke reported in Feodosia, occupied Crimea. There is also the Russian military base, and I think it's more or less usual picture for current situation. My friends, and now please press the like to this video, and also if you want to support my channel, there will be the link in the video description just below where you can get the Atlas VPN Premium with a huge discount, especially for my subscribers and viewers. My friends, hurry up to join the club. I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.